The first time I called him sexist was in my head, on a Tuesday, in Conference B where the thermostat is a liar. I had my laptop open to a slide I fussed over all night, and Evan sat across from me, like a mediation statue. Hands folded, eyes kind, nothing to grip. "Let's loop in one more person," he said, glancing at the glass door. "I don't do closed-door one-on-ones." "It's literally a status sync," I said. 10 minutes. "Then it won't hurt to have a third," he said, and ping the team channel for someone. Anyone.
To join.
Our intern, Priya, slid in with a notebook. Evan smiled, thanked her, and we proceeded like grown-ups, but the word lodged anyway. Sexist. I let it bloom. Here is what I knew then, or thought I did. Evan didn't sit next to women in meetings unless the seats were assigned. Evan kept his chat DMs tidy, like dental floss. No after-hours pings, everything in public channels, always a summary back to the thread. Evan never took coffee, with just one woman. When travel came up, he volunteered for flights but asked to pair up for safety and transparency. I watched him and decided I was watching a man who saw half the office as a hazard. I'm ashamed of how much I enjoy the indignation. I'm not a villain, but I am a person who sometimes confuses a story with proof. At happy hour, company-sponsored, attendance optional in small print that no one believes, I told my friends at the high top that Evan refused to meet women alone. Sonia said, "Like the Mike Pence thing?" and rolled her eyes. "That's not inclusive," Emily said, already drafting the Slack message in her brain. "Title VII is clear about disparate treatment," Priya said, surprising me. "If he avoids women, that's discrimination. But if his rule's gender-neutral," she trailed off, and I file-saved the first part and closed the second like a tab with a pop-up. I tried to catch him. That's the worst sentence in this story, but it's true. I sent a late-night DM. 11:14 p.m. about a vendor invoice I could have emailed in the morning. He didn't reply. At 8:02 a.m., he answered in the team channel, pasted my question, and wrote, "Moving here so finance has visibility. Answer below." I invited him for a hallway coffee. He replied with a calendar link for open office hours, all welcome, in the cafe, with a standing table and too bright lighting and the comings and goings of 100 coworkers. I asked him to pop by my desk to look at my slides real quick. He said he'd love to and grabbed Emily on his way. "Two brains," he said, like a compliment that wasn't a defense. He wasn't slippery. He was consistent in a way that made it hard to stab him with anecdotes. When our VP greenlit the Q3 rollout, the project leads needed to divide onboarding. I wanted enterprise accounts. Evan wanted whatever wasn't drama. "Put me on the gnarly ones," he said, "as long as we keep every decision in the ticket." He lives and dies by the ticket. Our Jira board looks like a train yard. His columns are the neatest platform. I sent him a private message anyway. "Quick check-in? Just us? I need candid feedback on my deck. Boss won't be there." He wrote back, "Let's do it in the glass conference room at 2 with a third. Or use tomorrow's office hours. I'll take notes. I have to stick to my protocol." Protocol. The word made me want to throw something soft and harmless like a stress ball at his temple. "Why do you do this?" I asked him finally, in the cafe, in front of the espresso machine that hisses like a tiny dragon. "No one else on our floor needs a chaperone to talk to women." He didn't bristle. "Because I learned the hard way to keep work inside the rails," he said. He tapped his notebook, thick with tabs. "When I started at my old company, I mentored a new grad. We traveled, worked late, ate room service fries. Nothing happened, but a rumor did. It stalled her and scorched me. HR shut it down, but it took 6 months to cool. After that, I set a rule: open channels, agendas, no closed doors, and if we travel, 2 people minimum on every vendor dinner. I apply it to everyone. I've said no to solo beers with dudes, too. I don't leave anyone guessing." "You do this with men?" I said, because I needed him to say it out loud. "Ask Marcus," he said. He still teases me about the time I made him invite Greg to a 1:1 at the Marriott lobby. I believed him, but I didn't forgive him for making me feel like a variable. I still wanted a normal coworker. My version of normal. One who would gossip a little, whisper a complaint on the walk back from a meeting, help me air out the steam. He was replacing proximity with transparency, and I took it personally. Then the rumor started. Not the old one. The one I helped write without moving my lips. Evan doesn't meet women. Someone wrote in the hashtag vent channel, private, of course, and nothing is private. Feels like bias. Another added a screenshot of his office hours invite with a caption, apply within, ladies, if you want 5 witnesses to your feedback. I didn't post, but I didn't correct it either. I let it roll downhill like a tire knocked off a parked car. HR reached out 3 days later. Subject line, workplace culture check-in. Neutral font, neutral words. They scheduled 15 minutes with me and 15 with Emily and 15 with Sonia, and then an hour with Evan, which felt like they were measuring something precise with a spoon. I prepared. I copied the Slack screenshots. I wrote a list of incidents, the Glassdoor insistence, the coffee in public, the buddy system for travel, the no DMs after 7 thing he'd posted as a boundary to the team. I met with the HRBP, a woman named Larissa, who could teach a class in comm. She asked me to walk her through my experience. I did. She listened. Then she asked one question that popped my indignation like a balloon. Has Evan denied you access to information, opportunity, or resources because you're a woman? No, I said, because the truth is a battering ram. I get his notes. He always adds me to the thread. He delegates fairly. He gives credit.
He includes me.
He just won't be alone with me. Has he been alone with men about work? She asked. Not as far as I know, I said, and hated how small it sounded. Okay, she said, writing. Company policy is twofold. We prohibit discrimination. That includes avoiding collaboration with someone because of sex. We also encourage professional boundaries. Use public channels, agenda-based meetings, glass rooms for sensitive topics, travel in pairs when possible. If an employee applies those boundaries evenly, we consider it a best practice. We're auditing Evan's behavior against both standards. If you have examples of unequal treatment, we'll pursue those. I didn't. I had vibes. Vibes don't hold up under fluorescent lights. Evan walked into HR with a binder. Not figuratively. An actual binder. Tabs like a rainbow. I know because Larissa told me later, in the kind tone you use when you expect me to learn something without being humiliated. The tabs were labeled with words that make managers salivate. Onboarding protocol, collaboration guide, travel SOP, office hours agenda, mentorship group, incident log. He had submitted his protocol for legal review when he was hired. There was a stamped email from compliance, approved as gender-neutral collaboration framework. The no after-hours DM rule? The whole team voted on it in a retro. The buddy system for vendor dinners? A finance manager had requested it as a control after an ugly vendor schmooze story 2 years ago. Evan had receipts, and the receipts had policy numbers. Larissa's email to all of us. Me, Emily, Sonia, Priya, and the 2 managers copied for awareness. Was maddeningly fair. Findings: no evidence of disparate treatment by Mr.
Hale.
Mr. Hale applies a gender-neutral collaboration protocol, all 1-to-1s in glass rooms or with a third present, office hours open to everyone, travel in pairs, no after-hours work communications absent an incident. This is consistent with our Respectful Workplace Policy Section 3.2 and Vendor Interaction SOP Section 5.1. Then a paragraph for us labeled reminders. Keep feedback in professional channels, not #vent. Don't use schoolyard shorthand to describe a colleague's boundaries. If you need private feedback, request a third party, manager, peer lead, HR, to join. The last line was for me. We also ask that employees refrain from pressuring colleagues to alter approved boundaries. It was friendly. It was a leash. I sulked for a week like an honest child who got caught throwing sand. I made myself feel better by calling the whole place risk-obsessed and joyless. Evan kept showing up the same way, with an agenda, a note-taker, a does anyone else need context before we dive in? He didn't hold it against me, at least not in public. He added me to the deck credits when a senior director thanked the team. He put a heart on my launch day Slack and added, Jasmine handled the gnarly edge cases. Customers number 4 and number 7 are only live because she moved heaven and tickets, which is the only way to compliment someone like me. Then Q3 happened, and the rollout went wrong in the way rollouts do. One customer didn't read the migration guide, another had custom fields we didn't map, a third escalated through a cousin on our board. Evan did not flinch. He triaged in the open. He put our names on the fixes we led. He sent out the ugly updates to the YLT with his name at the top and ours underneath because he knows shields are built like that. He asked for a postmortem with facilities in the glass room, invited the whole org, and stuck to 30 minutes like a surgeon. When promotion packets went around, our skip-level manager stopped by my desk and asked for peer feedback paragraphs on Evan. I wrote what was true. He delivers. He doesn't hoard information. He keeps sticky notes like a historian. He's annoyingly principled. I did not add, and he hurt my feelings by not flirting with the looseness of office culture, but I thought it like a confession. He got promoted to senior lead in December. The all-hands slide said recognized for building repeatable processes and mentoring via group office hours. The comments in Zoom chat were full of claps. Mine was there, a simple emoji. After the meeting, he messaged me. Not in a DM, but in our team channel where it belonged. Jasmine, thanks for the nomination. Your paragraph made me ugly cry in the kitchen. 3 people put hard eyes on it. I closed my laptop and stared at the window, angry at myself for the way feelings grow around false stories like vines. I did the awkward thing. I asked him if we could talk. Glass room, with Priya? I wrote in the thread, committing to the choreography. He replied, 2 p.m. and we'll grab Marcus as our third. He brought his notebook, of course. I owe you an apology, I said, before my courage thinned. I bought into a version of your boundaries that made me the main character. It wasn't fair. I made HR look at you like a suspect when you've been documenting this since before you got here.
I'm sorry.
He didn't do the martyr why, no apology necessary. He said, thank you, like a person receiving a package labeled fragile. I know my rules are awkward sometimes, he added. I know they can feel like distance. I'm trying to be the same kind of careful for everyone. I wanted a normal coworker, I said, making air quotes I hated even as I made them. But normal at work is just rules we all agree on. You wrote yours down. I should have read them. He laughed softly. I wrote them down because I'm bad at vibes, he said. Process keeps me honest. It also keeps me employed. I thought about how many women leave because the vibe eats them alive. I thought about how many men leave because the rumor does. The math of who stays is messier than we admit. Here is the part where the man wins, not with a speech, but with the absence of one. He didn't gloat. He didn't CC my manager on my apology. He didn't slip in a line about false accusations or witch hunts, or any of the phrases you see on angry corners of the internet. He kept doing the boring right thing, and the company rewarded him with more boring right things to own. The next time we had to travel for a customer dinner, he asked who wanted to pair up. I signed up with him on purpose. We went with Marcus and sat at a Too Loud steakhouse and spoke only about the product and the Yankees and our kids, and why the best dessert is creme brulee, because it crackles. Back at the hotel, we said goodnight in the lobby where the front desk clerk can see you and walked to elevators going in opposite directions. In the morning, he texted the group thread, lobby at 7:40. I'll grab coffee for whoever needs it. We'll Uber together to avoid expense chaos. It was so square it was safe. I stopped calling him sexist in my head. I started calling him what he is, careful. It does not scratch the itch of a story, but it will keep both of us employed, promoted, and at our kids' school concerts on time. I do not need Evan to be my friend in the way that means whispered confessions and conspiratorial eye rolls. I need him to be the colleague who will not drop a ball or a boundary. If you're looking for a villain, it's probably me, but not because I'm wicked. Because I wanted an exception made in my direction and called it equality. Because I used a word like a club when it should have been a question. Because I indulged a rumor and wore it like a sweater. Our company now has a written collaboration protocol doc on the wiki, adapted from Evan's binder, with a goofy little graphic the design team made. 2 stick figures and a glass door. It says what matters: group channels for work, open doors when possible, agendas and notes, pair up on travel, no after-hours DMs unless something is on fire, and treat everyone the same way. It links to the respectful workplace policy and the vendor SOP, and it ends with a line I love: boring is inclusive. That line is Evan's. Of course it is. I still get coffee with Emily and complain about the thermostat in Conference B. I still wish some days we could go back to a Messier version of an office where charisma fixed more than it broke. But then I watch Priya run a meeting with an agenda and someone taking notes and no one getting weird about where they sit, and I think, this is better. This is grown. Evan won by refusing to play the part one wrote for him. He showed up with receipts and rules and did not apologize for needing both. He kept the interactions equal, the work visible, and the drama offline. He made HR's job easy, which is another way of saying he made the rest of our jobs possible. I still don't like the cafe sliding. I am learning to love the glass. Oh.